Chapter 13, Security. Security threats. Malware. There are many types of threats created to disrupt computers and network. The greatest and most common threat for computers and the data contained on them is malware. Malware is typically installed on a computer without user knowledge. Once a host is infected, the malware could change the computer configuration, delete files, or corrupt hard drives, collect information stored on the computer without the user's consent, open extra windows on the computer, or redirect the browser. Viruses and Trojan horses. The first and most common type of the computer malware is a virus. Viruses require human action to propagate and infect other computers. A virus hides by attaching itself to a computer code, software, or documents on the computer. When opened, the virus executes and infects the computer. Cyber criminals also use Trojan horses to compromise hosts. A Trojan horse is a program that looks useful but also carries malicious code. Trojan horses are often provided with free online programs such as computer games. Types of malware. Adware can display unsolicited advertising using pop-up web browser windows, new toolbars, or unexpectedly directly a web page to a different website. Ransomware typically denies a user access to their files by encrypting the files and then display a message demanding a ransom for the decryption key. Rootkits are difficult to detect and are used by criminals to gain admin level access to a computer. Spyware is similar to adware but is used to gather information about the user and send it back to cybercriminals. Worms are self-replicating programs that propagate automatically without user action by exploiting vulnerabilities in software. Anti-malware programs. It is important that you protect computers and mobile devices using reputable antivirus software. Signature file updates. Therefore, anti-malware software must be updated regularly. This process is often enabled by default. Caution. When downloading signature files from a mirror, ensure that the mirror site is a legitimate site. Always link to mirror site from the manufacturer's website. Remediating infected systems. When a malware protect program detects that a computer is infected, it removes or quarantines the threat. However, the computer is most likely still at risk. Network attacks. Networks are targets. Perform an information query of a target. Attacker is looking for a network information about a target using Google search, hosts, and other tools. Types of TCP/IP attacks. Denial of service, distributed DOS, DNS positioning, man in the middle, replay, spoofing, SYN flood, zero day. The following two terms are commonly used to describe when a threat is detected. 0 days, sometimes also referred to as 0 days attack. 0R, this is the moment when the exploit is discovered. The software can be exploited until a patch that addresses the vulnerability is made available. Protecting against network attacks. There is no single solution to protect against all TCP/IP or zero-days attack. All network devices, including the router and switches, must be secure to prevent attackers from tampering with the devices. Social engineering attacks. Social engineering. Cyber criminals use social engineering techniques to deceive unsuspecting targets into revealing confidential information. Social engineering is a access attack that attempts to manipulate individuals into performing action or divulging confidential information. Social engineers often rely on human nature and people's willingness to be helpful. Social engineering techniques, pretexting, phishing, spear phishing, spam, something for something, baiting, impersonation, tailgating, shoulder surfing, dumpster. Protecting against social engineering. Protecting against social engineering attacks. Never give your username, password, credential to anyone. Always destroy confidential information according to the organization policy. Always report suspicious individuals. 13.2 Security procedures. What is a security procedure policy? A set of secure objectives that ensure the security of a network, the data, and the computers in organization. It is up to the IT staff to implement security policy specification in the network. Security policies identifies which asset require protection. Security policies, identification and authentication policies, password policies, acceptable use policies, remote access policies, network maintenance policy, incident handling policies. Security policy category, identification and authentication policies, password policies, acceptable use policies, remote access policies, network maintenance policy, incident handling policies. Securing device and data. The goal of the security policy is to ensure a safe network environment and to protect assets. Physical security is as important as data security. For example, if a computer is taken from an organization, the data is also stolen or worse, lost. Physical security involves securing access to an organization premise, access to restricted areas, the computing and network infrastructure. Security policy category, conventional lock, deadbolt lock, electronic lock, token-based lock, biometric lock, and multi-factory lock. Man traps. In high security environments, man traps are often used to limit access to restricted areas and prevent tailgating. Securing computers and network hardware. Organization must protect their computing and network infrastructure. This includes cabling, telecommunication equipment, and network devices. Factors that determine the most effective equipment to use to secure equipment and data include how the equipment is used, where the computer equipment is located, what type of user access to data is required. Protecting data. Data, your greatest asset. Data is likely to be an organization's most valuable asset. Organizational data may include research and development, sales, financial, human resource, employee, and customer data. Data backups. Backing up data is one of the most effective ways of protecting against data loss. Windows OS have a backup and restore utility. Mac OS have a time machine utility to perform backup and restores function. File and folder permission are rules you configure to limit folder or file access for an individual or for a group of users. File and folder encryption. Encryption is often used to protect data. Encryption is where the data is transformed using a complicated algorithm to make it unreadable. Encrypting file system is a window features that can encrypt data. Windows BitLocker and BitLocker. You can encrypt an entire hard drive using a feature called BitLocker. To use BitLocker, at least two volumes must be present on a hard disk. The Trusted Platform module must be enabled in BIOS. BitLocker encryption can also be used with removable drives by using BitLocker. Data wiping magnetic media. Protecting data also includes removing files from the storage devices when they are no longer needed. Data wiping software, also known as secure erase. Data wiping other media. SSDs are compromised or flash memory instead of magnetic platters. Other storage media and documents, example, optical disc, eMMC, USB sticks must also be destroyed. Hard drive recycling and destruction. When a storage media is no longer needed, the media can either be destroyed, recycled. 13.3 Securing Windows Workstation. Securing a computer and workstation should be secured from theft. Lock your workstation when you are not present to prevent unauthorized users from stealing or access local computer and network resources. Access to your computer must also be protected. There are three levels of password protection that can be used on a computer: the BIOS, login, and network. Securing BIOS, a Windows, Linux, or Mac login password can be bypassed. Setting a BIOS or UEFI password prevents someone from altering the configure setting and may also prevent someone from booting the computer. Securing Windows login. The most common type of password protection is the computer login. Depending on your computer system, Windows 10 may also support other sign-in option, Windows Hello, PIN, picture password, dynamic lock, local password management. Password management for standalone Windows computers can be set locally using Windows User Account Tool. Users' names and passwords. Usernames, like passwords, are an important piece of information and should not be revealed. Windows Local Security Policy. In most networks that use Windows computers, Active Directory is configured with domains on a Windows server. Account Policy Security Settings. The security policy will identify the password policy required. The Windows Local Security Policy can be used to implement the password policy. Use account policies, password policy to enforce password requirements. Local policy security settings. In the local security policy is used to configure audit policies, user, right policy, and security policy. Use the local policy, audit policy to enable auditing. Exporting the local security policy. An administrator may need to implement an extensive local policy for user rights and security option. This policy most likely would need to be This policy most likely will need to be replicated on its system. The step to replicate a local security policy. on other computers are: use the action, export list, features to export the policy of a secure host, save the policy with a name such as workstation.inf to external media, then import the local security policy file to other standalone computer, managing users and groups, maintaining accounts, terminating employee access, guest access, track logging times, log failed logging attempts, idle timeout, and screen lock, managing users account tools and user account tasks, user account control, local user and groups manager, local users and groups manager. The local users and groups tools can limit the ability of users and groups to perform certain actions by assigning rights and permissions. Managing groups. Users can be assigned to group for easier management. Active Directory users and computers, while local accounts are stored in the local security accounts database. A local machine domain accounts are stored in the Active Directory on a Windows Server's domain control. Firewalls. A firewall protects computer and networks by preventing undesirable traffic from entering internal networks. A firewall can allow outside users control access to specific services. Firewall services can be provided as follows: host-based firewall, small office home office, small to medium-sized organization, software firewalls. A software firewall is a program that provides firewall services on a computer to allow or deny traffic to the computer. Windows Firewall as a standard set of inbound and outbound rules that are enabled depending on the location of the connected network. If you wish to use a different software firewall, you will need to disable Windows Firewall. Configuring exceptions in Windows Firewall. You can allow or deny access to a specific program or ports from the Windows Firewall window. To configure exceptions and allow or block application or ports, click on Allow on App or Features through the Windows Firewall to open and allow apps window and be able to add an allow program or port, change an allow program or port, remove an allowed program or port. Windows Firewall with Advanced Security. Another Windows tool that is available to provide even greater access control with Windows Firewall policies is the Windows Firewall with Advanced Security. It is called Windows Defender Firewall with Advanced Security in Windows 10. To open it from the Windows Firewall window, click on Advanced Settings to open it. Web Security. Web browsers are not only used for web browsing, they are also now used to run other applications, including Microsoft 365, Google Docs, Interface for remote access SSL users, and more. In private browsing, web browsers retain information about the web page that you visit, and search that you perform, and other identifier information, including users' names, passwords, and more. Pop-up blocker. Pop-ups are initiated while browsing, such as a link on a page that opens a pop-up to deliver additional information or a close-up of a picture. Smart Screen Filter. Step 1. Click on More Action. Three-dot icon. Step 2. Select Settings. Step 3. Under the Advanced Settings label, select View Advanced Settings. Step 4. Scroll to bottom of this list to the help protect me from malicious sites and download with Windows Defender Smart Screen and ensure the slider is on. ActiveX filtering. Some web browsers may require you to install an ActiveX control. ActiveX controls can be used for malicious reasons. Restrictive settings. Device often come with security features that are not enabled, or the security features use default settings. Disable autoplay. Other Windows hosts use autorun to simplify the user experience. Operating system service packs and security patches. Patches are code updates that manufacturers provide to prevent a newly discovered virus or worm from making a successful attack. Configure wireless security. Common communication encrypt types. Communication between two computers may require secure communication. There are two major requirements. The first requirement is that received information has not been altered by someone who has intercepted the message. The following technologies accomplish these requirements: hash encoding, symmetric encryption, asymmetric encryption. Symmetric encryption ensures the confidentiality of the message. Asymmetric encryption also ensures confidentiality of the message. The service set's identifier is the name of the wireless network. Authentication methods. A share key provides mechanism to authenticate and decrypt data between a wireless client and AP of wireless router. WEP stands for Word Equivalent Privacy. WPA stands for Wi-Fi Protected Access. IEEE 802.11i. WPA2 is the current industry standard for securing ones. Both use the advanced encryption standard. Wireless security mode. WPA2, a wireless security encryption system to encode the information being sent to prevent unwanted capture and use of data. Most wireless access points support several different security modes. As discussed in previous chapter, always implement the strongest security mode, WPA2 possible. This is the Wi-Fi protected setup button. Firmware updates. Most wireless router offer upgradable firmware. Firewalls. A hardware firewall inspect data packets from the network before they reach devices on the inside network. Port forwarding and port triggering. Hardware firewalls can be used to block ports to prevent unauthorized access in and out of the LAN. Universal plug and play is a protocol that enables devices to dynamically forward traffic through network ports without the need for user intervention or configuration. Port forwarding is often used for streaming media, hosting games, providing services from home and small business computers to the internet. Chapter 14, the IT Professional. 14.1, Communication Skills and the IT Professionals. Communication skills, troubleshooting, and professional behaviors. Relationship between communication skills and troubleshooting. To troubleshoot a computer, you need to learn the details of the problem from the customer. Most people who need a computer problem fixed are probably feeling some stress. If you establish a good rapport with the customer, the customer might relax a bit. A relaxed customer is more likely to able to provide the information that you need to determine the source of the problem and then fix it. If you are talking with a customer in person, that customer can see your body language. If you are talking with a customer over the phone, that customer can hear your tone and inflection. Customers can also sense whether you are smiling when you are speaking with them on the phone. Many call center technicians use a mirror at their desk to monitor their facial expression. Work with a customer, know, relate, and understand. Active listening. Allow the customer to tell the whole story during the time that the customer is explaining the problem. Occasionally, interject some small word or phrase such as I understand or yes. Using professionals' behavior with the customer. When dealing with customers, if someone's easier to explain what you should not do, the following list describes things that you should not do when talking with a customer. Tips for hold and transfer. How to put a customer on hold. Do and do nots. How to transfer a call. Do and do nots. Keeping the customer call focus. Use proper language. Listen and question. Give feedback. 14.2 Operational Procedure. Documentation Overview. The purposes for documentation, including the following: IT department documentation, policy documents, and operation and planning documents, project documents, user documentation, regulatory compliance requirements. Federal, state, local, and industry regulation can have documentation requirements over and above what is normally documented in the company's records. Regulatory and compliance policy often specify what data must be collected and how long it must be retained. A few of the regulation may have implication on the internal company processes and procedures. Some regulation required keeping extensive records regarding on how data is accessed and used. Failure to comply with laws and regulations can have severe consequences, including fines, termination of employment, and even incarceration of offenders. Change management, change control process, change control worksheet, name of project, project manager, technician, stakeholder, date created, date approved, date started, date complete and accepted. Disaster prevention and recovery, disaster recovery overview. A disaster recovery plan is a comprehensive document that describe how to restore operational quickly and keep critical IT functions running during or after a disaster occurs. The disaster recovery plan can include information such as offsite locations where services can be moved, information on replacing network devices and servers, and backup connectivity option. Some services may even need to be available during the disaster in order to provide information to IT personnel and updates to others in the organization's services that may need to be available during or immediate after a disaster include web services and internet connectivity, data stores and backup files, directory and authentication services, databases and application servers, telephone, email, and other communication services, preventing downtime and data loss, backup storage method, cloud backups, local backups, the advantages and disadvantages, elements of disaster recovery plan. There are 5 major phases of creating and implementing a disaster recovery plan. Phase 1, network design recovery strategy. Phase 2, inventory and documentation. Phase 3, verification. Phase 4, approval and implementation. Phase 5, review. Ethical and legal considerations. Ethical and legal consideration in IT. Respect your customer as well as their property. Computers and monitors are property, but property also includes any information or data that may be accessed, for example, emails, phone lists and contact lists, records or data on computer, hard copies or files, information or data left on a desk. Personal identifiable information. Example of PII include, but are not limited to, name, such as full name, maiden name, mother's maiden name, or alias, payment card industry. Information is considered personal information that needs to be protected. Protect health information is another form of PII that needs to be secure and protected. Legal considerations in IT. The laws in different countries and legal jurisdiction vary, but generally, actions such as the following are considered to be illegal. It is not permissible to make any changes to system software or hardware configuration without customer permission. It is not permissible to access a customer's or coworker's account, private files, or email messages without permission. Licensing. It is illegal to use licensed software without the appropriate license. An example of personal software license is an end-user license agreement. Computer forensic. Data from computer system, network, wireless communication, and store devices may need to be collected and analyzed in the course of criminal investigation. The collection and analysis of data for this purpose is called computer forensic. The process of computer forensics encompasses both IT and specific laws to ensure that any data collected is admissible as evidence in court. Data collected in computer forensic. Two basic types of data are collected when conducted computer forensics procedures: persistent data, volatile data. Cyber law is a term to describe the international, regional, country, and state law that affect computer security professional. IT professionals must be aware of cyber law so that they understand their responsibility and their liability as it relates to cyber crimes. First response is the term used to describe the official procedures employed by those people who are qualified to collect evidence. Documentation. If you discover illegal activity on a computer or network on which you are working, at minimum, document the following: initial reason for accessing the computer network, time and date, peripherals that are connected to the computer, all networks connection, physical area where the computer is located, illegal materials that you have found, illegal activity that you have witnessed, which procedures you have executed on the computer or network, chain of custody. To prove the chain of custody, first responders have documentation procedure in place that track the collected evidence. This procedure also prevents evidence tampering so that the integrity of the evidence can be ensured. Incorporated computer forensics procedures into your approach to computer and network security to ensure the integrity of the data. This procedure helps to capture necessary data in the event of network breach, ensuring the viability and integrity of the captured data helps you prosecute the intruder